If you're a Mei player struggling to play the new Mei in Season 5 with all the new reworks, I've created this guide to help you understand the changes to Mei and her playstyle. A lot of things have changed in how to best play Mei. I'm going to reveal to you the most efficient way to win more games with Mei going into the new season, and one of these tips will surprise you. After watching this guide, feel free to watch my Unranked to GM with the new Mei, where I go 40 and 10 and get to GM with a fresh account in only 50 games. I give educational advice through the whole thing, and it's a wealth of knowledge if you are a serious Mei player that wants to win more games. I've linked that video below in the description. Before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you want to get notified about any new Mei content.
Thank you.
The new Mei is played very differently now, with the reduction to 55 DPS on her primary, the added slow effect, and additional 40 damage to her secondary for frozen targets. Mei has become much more of a utility hero than a DPS like she was before. Today I'm going to go over each part of her kit and how to use it, her positioning, and a surprising fact I found out while doing my Unranked to GM. First off is her positioning. Previously, Mei had many options on how she could position. Depending on the team compositions and the map, Mei could flank, play further back as a poke, play closer as a brawl, and many more. However, now with Mei's reduced damage, she really can't take fights on her own anymore. This means you'll need to be closer to your team to secure most of your eliminations. I learned that about 90% of the time, I needed to be glued to my tank if I had a more frontline tank like Rein, Orisa, Zarya, Sigma, or Ramatra. If my tank was more of a dive tank, or a tank that a Mei would probably have trouble following around, I defaulted to playing closer to my supports or becoming kind of the front line for my team. Unfortunately, this is a much less exciting way to play Mei, but with the recent changes, it has become necessary for Mei to always be near her team to get her value. Next up is her primary. Her primary received a massive damage nerf to the point where I would not recommend using it for damage alone. 55 DPS is some of the lowest DPS out of all the heroes in Overwatch, including support, so using her primary to dish out damage is not the way to go. Instead, you want to use it more to stun lock vulnerable heroes in place so your team can follow up with the damage. Hitting that 75% speed reduction will make it very easy for your team to line up some headshots and delete heroes. Bonus points if you use your voice chat to let your team know who you are focusing with your primary. Now, if you can get your target to the 75% speed reduction frozen state, you have the option to use your secondary to break the freeze and deal an additional 40 damage on top of whatever damage you do with your secondary. Now, even though this sounds effective, I found that it is not as effective as you would think. There are so many things in the game that can cleanse this freeze state, and with you playing closer to your team fights, you'll be taking so much damage that you will rarely get the opportunity to secure that proc 40 shot. Instead, I recommend holding the primary freeze to continue slowing down your target. The 75% slowdown lasts for 1.5 seconds, but if you hold the freeze down, it will revert back to the 50% slow after the 1.5 seconds, which is still a very good reduction. For her secondary, you'll be using it just about the same as before, getting poke damage, looking for headshots. The biggest change, however, is that you'll be using it in more of the 1v1 situations. I found that trying to use your primary to slow your target down and then hitting them with the proc 40 shot only works if you land the headshot on most of the 150 to 250 HP heroes. If you only landed a body shot, then you would most likely lose that duel. You'll have much better luck just going for the headshot out of the gate, but it will still most likely be an unfavorable matchup. Like I said before, Mei is terrible for 1v1 matchups now. For her cryo, I recommend being more generous with your usage of it. Now that you'll be playing closer to the team fights, you'll be taking more burst damage. This means you need to predict incoming damage more often and use your cryo before you take, 300 damage in 0.01 seconds. If you're at half health and you feel like you're about to get barraged, be safe and use your cryo. For her wall, you'll now be using it to exclusively either block incoming damage or abilities, or separate enemies to secure kills. Wall off their tank and then use either the secondary to dish out damage or primary to slow them down for your team. Finally, her ultimate. Blizzard is still in an interesting spot. It's hard to get value with it since most of the heroes have abilities to either move out of it or somehow cleanse themselves and teammates from the freezing. I found that most success with my ult is to solo freeze vulnerable targets. This means any hero that doesn't have the ability to escape your freeze on their own. Heroes like Cassidy, Junker Queen, Rein, Hog, Ana, etc. Now you can go for other targets as well, but make sure important abilities are on a cooldown. This is what we call ability tracking. It's very important for Mei's ultimate. Now some examples of this is like, let's say you throw your freeze down on a Junker Queen, you want to make sure that their Kiriko is down their cleanse, so they can't just cleanse the Junker Queen as she walks out of it. Or if they're running a Zarya, you need to make sure Zarya's bubbles are down. Or even if they're running Reinhardt, you need to make sure his charge is down so he can't charge out. Or Winston's jump is down. It's these kind of abilities that you need to make sure are tracked so your freeze just doesn't get negated on value completely. Now that Life Weaver is being played more often too, you're going to see a lot of people get life gripped out of your freeze as well. Make sure that his life grip is down on cooldown before you use that freeze. I think it lasts about 16 seconds right now. So it's you know, every quarter of a minute, every 15-16 seconds he'll have life grips to make sure that that cooldown's off. So you want to check all the heroes that can really get people out of your freeze. Make sure those critical cooldowns are used before you use your freeze, so you can make sure you secure those kills. That's about it for Mei in Season 5. In my opinion, she's definitely not as fun to play, but she's still very viable and playable if you are looking to play her this season. Let me know what you think about the Mei changes in the comments below. Join me on my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/tsgspooky, where I will be playing Mei for you guys. And if you want to join a community of Mei enthusiasts, that's the place to be. Again, you can check out my unranked to GM. I've linked that below in the description. I do recommend watching that. It's a wealth of knowledge if you are looking to play Mei seriously. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one. Keep it spooky, everybody, and peace.